everyone. How's everyone doing? We're here for some Irish things, some interesting Irish stories and things. My name is Brendan Moher, chair of 9 Ships 1825. And our directors of 9 Ships are here, historian and author, and Professor Elwood Jones. Elwood, there you are. And historian and speaker Dennis Carter-Edwards. Dennis. A special thanks to our Vice Chair Mary Smith for helping, and Maureen Crowley, who did so very much to help organize this wonderful event today. Is Shelley Ryan here? Where is she? Where's Shelley? There you are. Okay, Shelley. I knew you were coming. I also want to give a shout out to Kevin Heffernan, the Grand Knight, for letting this hall to us today. Thank you, Kevin, wherever you are. And to also Patricia Medill and Maria Fitzgerald of the Catholic Women's League and all the other ladies that are helping today get this together. So thank you very much. And what a treat 9 Ships has for you today. Well-known historical geographer, author, and man about Ireland, Christy Roche has joined us here today. Christy, coming all the way from Ireland, from Northern County Cork, a beautiful piece of heaven right here on earth. The Blackwater Valley, nestled among the Ballyhura Mountains in Ireland. Is my voice okay? Is it too loud or is it just about right? Okay, that's good. It's from the Blackwater Valley 200 years ago that most of the Peter Robinson emigrants came from and sailed across the North Atlantic to settle here in the Peterborough region of central Ontario. And I cannot think of anyone more knowledgeable than Christy Roche about the history of our cousins, the good people of the Blackwater Valley. Christy Roche was born in Glanworth Parish in North County Cork, Ireland, educated at Grange National School, Fermoy Christian Brothers School, and University College Cork. For the past 40 years, he has given many, many lectures and historical talks in his homeland of Ireland, Europe, the United States, Brazil, and here in Canada as well. He has been honored by many communities back in Ireland for his work on and contributions to the heritage and tourism of the Blackwater Valley. Christy is an accomplished writer, having contributed historical articles to Irish newspapers and magazines, and has edited and written several books, including The Fort of the Apples, A Glimpse of Grange, and my favorite, From Whence They Came, the Peter Robinson Settlers. My wife Janet and I have had the pleasure of visiting Christy's home library near the town of Fermoy in County Cork, where he resides with his lovely wife Mary. And I can tell you that his library is filled to the rafters with all manner of fascinating books and papers on the comings and goings of the Irish from the Blackwater Valley. And the history goes way back, even thousands of years. It is truly an amazing collection. Today, on the eve of St. Patrick's Day, we are in for a very special Irish treat indeed. Please raise your hands and offer a warm Irish-Canadian welcome to Christy Roche on the rich heritage of the Blackwater Valley. Christy.
Thank you for that welcome. I just want to set my stopwatch here so that I won't go.
I'll be your stopwatch too.
Yeah. So we're going to take a trip through time through Blackwater Valley and look at the heritage of it. Look at the culture and heritage that shaped your ancestors before they left in 1825. And we'll go way back to the Ice Age. Ireland had what they call the Midlandian Ice Age back 25,000 years ago. But the last Ice Age I had was what they call the Midlandian Ice Age, and that was ended about 10,000 years ago. That did not cover the Blackwater Valley. The Blackwater Valley escaped that Ice Age. So we have the oldest landscape in Ireland. how do I go back? Yeah. You can see the what's yeah, we'll go on to the next one. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, you can see the number 64, 65, 66, those ones that I've coloured there in yellow. That's the area we're talking about, that's the area of North Cork that we're talking about. We're looking at the River Blackwater. The River Blackwater rises in County Kerry, flows right across North Cork and then down into the Senior Hall through Waterford. In the Gaelic it's known as Our Moon. That means the Great River of Munster. It's the fourth longest river in Ireland. It's about nearly 100 miles in length. And it has been populated, I'd say, for 10,000 years. And the people, the first people that were there in the Neolithic times, Neolithic is translated from the Greek, New Stone Ages of Earth. And dotted across the valley are plenty of monuments to these that were erected by these people 10,000 years ago and up to 4,000 years ago. And there have been many different cultures in the valley over the years, but the pace of change and the rate of change was so slow that the new culture did not obliterate the one that was there before it. So on the landscape we have traces of the cultures going back to the Stone Age. And we can see some magnificent monuments, stone circles. These were the calendars of their time. They were aligned to the sun at either the setting sun at the winter solstice, as in Newgrange, or the rising sun in some other place. And here in Lebbically in North Cork, that is aligned to the setting sun at the equinox. So you get two for the price of one. You get it in March and in September. And what happens is the sunshine, it shines on if you're lucky enough to have sunshine on September evening, it shines right in and illuminates the inside of the monument. It's called Lebbically, Leva on Cally, the bed of the grave of the old woman, of the hag. And there's plenty of tradition about it. And they excavated it in 1930s. There was an excavation done there, and they found the remains of a woman inside in the inner chamber. And the inner chamber had a little slot cut out of the big stone in it, which they say was for the spirit to escape. But it is a magnificent structure. Some of you saw it. I know that Mike Towns and Nancy saw it, and Brendan saw it. But it's a magnificent structure, and a reminder to us of our ancestors and your ancestors and what they achieved during the Stone Age. I mean, it's a wonder how they built it. The top stone we weighed maybe 20 tons, so tremendous structures. Then just after, in the Bronze Age, Iron Age, our ancestors started building hilltop forts. This is up in Shianam and Offina. The translation of that is the seat of the fair women, or the seat of the fair woman. And they are dotted on hills all around Lebbically, where that structure is. There's one in Corn, and there's one in Shianam and Offina, one in Castlegale, one in Cahardrina. And these were places of worship, of gathering, of ceremony. This here is Cahadrina. Cahadrina means the strong fort. You can see there was a Norman castle built there. That was built in the much later, but you can see the circle. You can see the circle around there that the people in the Bronze Age built it for defence, and they would have had ceremonies up there. These are all under the care of the public works. Thanks be to God, they've been saved and won't be destroyed. How can I go back here?
Yes, here. Just tell me when.
Okay, this is the Ogham stone. That was the early Irish writing, was in Ogham. They did it with a series of strokes. Each stroke, say 4 strokes was A, 5 was AE, then all the vowels and the consonants, and they put the strokes. You had to read the stone up, across and down, and those were usually memorial stones for people. They might have said Con, the son of David, or something written on that in Gaelic, and they were no, sorry, I haven't mastered this now. Okay, the next. Yeah, that is where the Ogham stones, that is where they were located. You can see there they were located all along the Blackwater Valley and across into Wales. Very few of them up north or up in the Midlands. They were strongest down around in the Blackwater Valley. The Blackwater Valley was the leading area, I would say, for development. They were ahead of their time at all times, and there was plenty of those stones found out in just south of Moher in Ballino. There was about 30 of them found in the one place, and they are all to be seen now in the stone corridor in UCC. They're on view for public, and they're deciphered, and you can visit them all if you're in Cork. Is that the next other end? This one?
I think it's there.
Yeah. In that period, the place names of that period were descriptive of the terrain. You had Bon na Nonini, which means the field of the daisy. Gortina Tariff, the field for the bull. Corrigorum, the blue hill, you know. Then the church came along. St. Patrick came in 432, and Ireland was converted to Christianity. Now, St. Declan had been in the south before St. Patrick, but St. Patrick had a better PR team. and he was in the north of Ireland, and the O'Neills of Ulster were there, and they made sure that the PR was done properly. But anyway, Ireland became Christianized, and then, you know, place names started to reflect that. And you had the Killatty, the Kilcrumper, Kilbolan, all names, Kil meaning church, and usually associated with some saint or other that was there at that time. Now, the early Irish churches were built in timber, and then they started building in stone. And this church here is a church in Killamara, the Church of Our Lady. It's in Glanworth. And when they started building in stone, they used the same features that they would have if they were building in timber. And you can see the ante there, where in timber the timbers would jut out in front, and they used the same features. And the top of those as well, they put a little cross like that where you'd have two timbers crossing. They did that in stone. They just copied the features that are in the, you'll see one with the timbers crossed or the stone crossed in Kilmakead or down in Kerry. But again, in North Cork, again, the first to be building in stone, the first to have those features. And there are 3 churches there. There's Killamera, and there's one out in Cool, and one in, third one will come to me in a minute. And they were first dealing with churches. They were Romanesque churches, which meant that they had the round arch. The Normans came after them, and the Gothic arch came into being. Round tower again, that was another feature of the Irish. The round towers, they were bell towers, principally for ringing the bell so that monks would hear them. There are the ruins of 80 round towers around Ireland. There was one in Mitchelstown in the North Cork area. There's one in Clyne, and one in West Cork. But there's plenty of them then in Limerick, just off the border. There's one in Patrick. But these are uniquely Irish. You know, I mean, if you see a round tower, you'll straight away think of the Irish monks. And the high crosses were associated with them as well, the famous high crosses. Ireland was it was thriving in the 6th, 7th, 8th centuries. It was the golden age of saints and scholars. During that period, the Roman Empire collapsed in Europe, and it's what we call the Dark Ages in Europe. All that they had learnt in Europe during the early years, and you know, even in Egyptians, and that they had known about the sun going, the earth going around the sun, and they had measured the circumference of the earth, and that was all lost to Europe. And in fact, in Europe in the Middle Ages, they believed that the earth was flat. And Galilei, when he came along and said that the earth went around the sun, he was excommunicated and told to think again. But the Irish at that time were thriving, and the Irish sent their missionaries back into Europe and educated Europe. And one of the reasons why Ireland was that was the golden age, the age of saints and scholars. It was in the edge of Europe, and there was trade from Norway down to Spain and down to North Africa, and Ireland was right in the middle of that trade route, and that's why Ireland was able to be well educated and turn out to be the island of saints and scholars. And you know, Columbanus, there was several of those Irish saints, and they're renowned for bringing the faith back into England and the continent. One of the other Charles, that'll show you the typical work that was being carried out in Ireland, the gold and silver work. There was some tremendous work done there, and some tremendous writings. And in North Cork, we're very lucky with the writing. There's one manuscript that relates to the Blackwater Valley. It's called Cricket and Quila. It's a unique document. In most of these documents, I mean, the earliest document in Western Europe, the oldest, is referring to the Blackwater Valley, but it's only spin. It's only telling us how great the leader was. But this one here, which was writing about a time that was maybe it was before the Normans came. The Normans came in 1160. It was writing maybe from 1,000 years ago, describing the area of the Blackwater Valley, who was there, the divisions, who the leaders were, who the priests were. There's no other place in Ireland that has a document like it. It gives us the names of the people, of the families that were there. And you know, the people that came here to Canada with Peter Robinson, there was 30 families of those have the same names as were written in that period of 10,000 years ago. And I have those names down here. I'll just read them out to you. So as you know, there was Brian, Buckley, Cleary, Cochran, Curtin, Dahal, Donnelly, Doody, Dugan, Doody, Downey, Doyle, Duggan, Finn, Lenehan, Gorman, Hanrahan, Heffernan, Hennessy, Houlihan, Carney, O'Keefe, Keneally, Kennedy, Kenny, Lee, O'Connor, O'Donoghue, Quinn and Regan. So, I mean, anyone with those names were living in the Blackwater at that period and are mentioned. And I said that is a tremendous book. There's Canon Power, who was an archaeologist in UCC, he wrote about that in the book published in 1932 called Cricket and Quila, and gives a good account of what was happening in Ireland. It even mentions there's a ditch running right across the valley from the Ballyhowlers to the Nagels. The Blackwater Valley is between the Ballyhowler Mountains and the Nagle Mountains in the south. And in Cricket and Quila it mentions the fact that there was a ditch, currently the Black Ditch, running from north to south. And when excavations were done in the 1990s, it was found that that ditch was 2,000 years old, and the present day parishes are very much, the division, the boundaries of them are very much in line with that 2,000-year-old ditch. The best way they have now of dating these, I mean, you have the radiocarbon dating, but there's the dendrochronology, which looks at the tree. If they find a piece of wood, as you know, the trees add a ring every year, and depending on the weather, that ring is big or narrow, and it makes up, you know, they can trace back over 5,000 years now of how old a bit of timber is. So if they find timber in one of these excavations, they can put almost an exact date in it. It's like a barcode, and you know, it's a tremendous addition to the archaeologists. Labby Cally, what I showed you there earlier, that, you know, when they excavated there, they have it. First of all, they said it's 2,500 years old, but then when they looked at the timbers that they found, 4,000 years old. So it's tremendous. The Normans then came. The Normans came in 1169. There were Roches, Flemings, Condons, and you'll find them all in my book. I have a list of the Norman names that came in, and they started building in stone. That's Glanworth there, Glanworth Castle, Glanworth Bridge, built for 1446. It's probably the oldest bridge in Europe that is still in everyday use, and it's now they have barriers up on it now to prevent the big lorries going over it. Now the big lorries, it'll carry the weight of the big lorries, but it's not wide enough, and it'll knock the sides of it, and it has had a few accidents like that. But lorries or big machinery are not allowed. But behind that you have the castle. The Glanworth Castle was built in the 12th century. It was originally built by the Condons, and then the Roches got it through marriage. The Normans, they changed the culture of the area, changed the culture of Ireland. They brought in the baronies. Each baron then was Glanmort was in the Barony of Fermoy. The old name of the place was the Farmwee. There were the men of the plain, and so it became the Barony of Fermoy with the Normans. And the Normans also, they firmly believed in the divine right of kings. They believed that the kings of the barons, they got their power directly from God. And as such, they believed that they had a responsibility to look after everybody in their barony, rich and poor. And the social welfare system that they devised was getting in the monasteries, getting in the Franciscans or the Dominicans or the Augustinians. And they built monasteries, and they looked after the poor. This the monastery in Bridgetown in Castletown that the Normans, the Roches there, built that. It's in the care of the Cork County Council, and you can see it is quite an extensive building, quite an extensive room. The first castle we saw was the castle of the Normans. There are three of those that type castles in North Cork. You have one in Ballymacphilip and one in Ballydrown and one in Glanmort. They were bigger, and the castle had bigger windows. And then these developed into this what they call the Irish Tower House, which was taller, narrower, and much more for defence. That's Connacht Castle, but all along the Blackwater, along the River Blackwater, along the tributaries of the Blackwater, the Funchion, the Aragon, the Abeg, you have those type of castles. They're quite plentiful. But like the monasteries, Bridgetown, Dominicans Monastery in Glanmort, they were all taken over by the English. Henry VIII, the Irish, the Catholicism was, they didn't want any Catholics, they just want Elizabethan change to Protestant England. Henry VIII, he just confiscated the church lands. He said the church had become too powerful, he didn't want them there, and he took over the land. So for that reason we have a lot of ruins in Ireland. I mean, if that had been in another country, they'd still be in use for what they were originally built for. As I said, the Normans then, they introduced the barony was their method of governing. The baron, he had his serfs and servants and got his, and the baron, they had a duty then to supply so many men. If the battle being fought, or they had to supply so many men for the king's army, and that, so it was fairly regimental. But there was plenty of interaction and violence between the people, between the barons, even the Roches and the Condons, even though they were Normans. They had many a fight, many a skirmish, many killed in those. It wasn't all peace and quiet, but like St. Glanmort, you know, they got the best of land. The Irish that were there, the O'Keefes were originally in Glanmort, and they were moved over to Duhallow, which was much poorer land. Elizabethans. America had been discovered, and Ireland was much nearer to America than England, and they wanted a base to be able to get to America quicker as much as anything else. So they decided they'd come in and take the land and conquer Ireland. And they started building the big houses. Sir Walter Raleigh and Spencer, they were associated with North Cork. Sir Walter Raleigh had land in North Cork, and Spencer also in near Doneraile, and Sir Walter Raleigh down near Connacht. And you had the Devonshires who bought the land from the Great Earl of Cork. That was Lismore Castle, and it was the Great Earl had that, and it fell into the Duke of Devonshire's got it through marriage. Now Cork also has close associations with Sir Walter Raleigh, as I said, and North America. There was a gentleman by the name of John White who went to America with Sir Walter Raleigh's expedition and settled in Jamestown, Roanoke Island. And John White was a cartographer and an artist, and these are some of the drawings that he did. He brought back great drawings of the Indians and of everything in America, of the flora and the fauna, and very, very accurate. And he also drew the map for Sir Walter Raleigh's estate in North Cork, and that's a map of Mogeely and Mogeely Castle. They were drawn in late 1500s. John White's granddaughter was the first European to be born on American soil, Virginia Dare. She was born on the 18th of August, 1587, I think. And but Sir John White came back to England and Ireland to get more provisions for those settlers in what's now called the Lost Colony, because when he went back 2 years later, they wouldn't trace no tidings of them, you know. But that's a close association that they have with. He was associated with Doneraile as well. He lived in Doneraile, in Newtown and Doneraile for a while, so there's close associations with North Cork and the original settlers in America. In that time as well, with the English, they built iron furnaces. That's the furnace. There was one out in Aragon, another one in Fermoy, another one in Cappoquin. The furnaces were getting iron for maybe the cannonballs for the English or whatever they wanted them for. And in that regard, they cut down all the Irish forests. The Irish suffered badly because of the Irish oak. The Irish oak tree is different from the English oak in that it is a very straight tree rather than the broad ones that the English have. It grew up very straight and was ideal for shipbuilding, and they also use it in the furnaces for melting down the iron. So one of the results was that in the Blackwater Valley, all the oak forests that were back around Moher were burnt. As a result, the Blackwater flooded. There's no record of a flood before the English came, but after the English, we had a big flood every 30 years. And it also affected the water running faster, silted up Youghal Harbour, and Youghal Harbour was closed. When I was young, we had about every 20, 30 years, but then as the farmers began to clear away the small fields and make bigger fields, it turned out we'd flood every 2 years. But then through the European Union and grants, they built flood protection in the towns of Fermoy and Mallow, and that has eased things there. The English also were responsible for building the towns. Mallow, Fermoy, that's Fermoy town with the bridge and over the Blackwater. And that was subject to the flooding, and the Irish, when they built, and you'll see this with all the little villages and towns, the old villages and towns like Lismore, Cappoquin, Kilworth, Doneraile, etc. They were all built at one side of the river. The English, with Mallow and Fermoy, they built the town at both sides of the river, and the Irish had been careful to build back from the river, but the English built up beside it. They were in Fermoy, you have the houses facing onto the river. John Anderson, the man responsible there, he was a Scotsman. He was hoping to have it navigable up along, but it didn't. It make any hope to make a canal up along to. There was coal found back in Duhallow, but a lot of the land was limestone land, so water was going through it. It wasn't a success. The English then, as I said, the barony was the method of administration, but with the Normans, and the English came and they used the parish, the local parish, and the parish was a smaller unit, and each parish was responsible for its own, looking after its own sick, doing its own roads, and lending its own bridges, etc. But the parishes and the rector, or who was in charge of these parishes, were of course Church of Ireland parishes, but it wasn't a success because it wasn't viable. Some of the parishes were very small and weren't able to look after the sick or anything. And it was the famine was one of the results of that system, because each parish was too small. And eventually they formed what they call a union of parishes to look after and formed maybe 7 or 8 or 9 parishes together to look after the sick and that, and they built a union workhouse. But the failure of the Peterborough then didn't help. The famine in North Cork, there's a very good book called To Die by Inches, written by Edward Garner, and that gives you a very good account of the famine in just before I talk about the famine, I just mentioned there as I said, North Cork was leading in many ways, and in the 1760s, Bishop John O'Brien, he produced the first Irish-English dictionary. He was Bishop of Clyne, which covers all the Blackwater Valley. Now the dictionary was published in France because it was, of course, the English wouldn't be that keen on it, but anyway, it was published, and it's, you know, it was a great thing. It brought the English into the yeah, that's the last slide anyway. You saw a high cross there. Those high crosses, of course, they were there about the time of the Round Towers. But we get back to the famine. The famine, the Irish had been, population of Ireland in the 1700s was maybe at least 1.5 million, 2 million, and then the potato came, and the potato is a wonderful food, and you know, you can live in the potato alone. You don't have to do anything else with it, and you know, even a small plot of land, you had a half acre, you could feed your family for the year with the potato, and it was you know, people were more virile, more fecundity, and the families increased in size, and got to a population explosion, and you had up to 8 million people by 1847, and the people there, then the potato crop failed, and of course the powers that be didn't attempt to potato failure across Europe at the same time, but the governments in each place put something in place to save the poor. But in Ireland, the English just said, you know, let nature take its course. They're not worth saving, more or less. And, you know, in a lot of the places around North Cork, population decreased by up to 30%, you know, with people dying. There's a very good account in Edward Gardner's book that I've been interested of a ship's captain that came over from America with food, and he met Lord Mountcashel, and he is an account of the people who died in the Mountcashel estate. And there was a number of Mohers died, but luckily enough some of their ancestors had gone before that, you know. But the names of the people, the only place that where we have names of people that died during the famine is in Kilworth. In other places, you know, we just know that in rural Castlelyons, population dropped over 50%. The only place where the population increased was in Ballyhooly village, where Lord Listowel was in charge there. He brought seed potatoes over from England for his tenants, and the population increased. It increased by just one between 1841 and 1851, but it was the only place that had an increase. But the famine had a devastation effect on the population, and they lost their spirit, if you like. It went until the late 1800s with the Gaelic revival that they got it back again. But that might, I hope that gives you some idea of what made and shaped your ancestors and what the Blackwater Valley is like. Thank you a lot.
Christy, for wonderful information there. Christy's willing to take questions from the floor here for anybody that might be curious about some of the things he's raised. So we'll do that for the next 10 minutes or so, and we'll go from there.
Christy, in your research on the Peter Robinson group from the 1820s, one of the challenges we faced here is everyone thinks of the famine migration. Whenever they think of Ireland and migration, it's the famine. So the challenge was to bring the story of the Peter Robinson story forward. In your own research, how difficult did you find it to get this story better known of the 1825, 23 and 25 experiment?
Right, I first wrote about Peter Robinson about 40 years ago. I did a series in the local paper, and I approached the council, approached the tourism board. No interest. You know, they weren't interested at all in getting the story across or in publicising it. You know, which I think was it took years later before that was done. Of course, Amanda played a big part in that with the rural development. That rural development system in Ireland emerged through the European Union. They put that in place, and it was because before that Ireland was very top down, and that made it bottom up, and the Peter Robinson thing got a voice.
The sense I had was that a successful British migration scheme did not fit the Irish narrative. It was hard to give the English credit for what turned out to be, for Peterborough at least, a real blessing.
Yes, it could be that. I don't know. But there was several, as you know, schemes, you know, and maybe because it was of English origin, you know, and as you know, the English, they stopped after 1825 because they said, let them go themselves now, and they did, in fairness. You know.
Other question, Alan? Other questions here?
I have one here.
Okay, Rosemary?
Yeah, I was wondering, Christy, those original documents that you wrote in the local paper, Do you have copies of those
Yeah.
that you could share with us?
I can.
That would be wonderful to have.
We'll send them on to you. Yeah, they're just a list of those that left from the various villages. You know, a
Sure.
little piece about them.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, since you mentioned the topic about the monuments, ancient monuments, I think if you've been to Loch Gur, the
Yeah.
massive stone circle.
A
Yeah,
113 stones and
Yeah.
that's
Probably one of the biggest in Europe.
It's yeah.
Do you know what's been happening there? I was there a few years ago and really was impressed by
Yeah.
what they discovered.
Yeah, I know. They have done various researches on it, you know, and it's tremendous monument there, you know, and again, it was a ceremonial site that, you know, they didn't find any. They did find some few bones there when they excavated, but it wasn't a graveyard. It was for ceremony, you know. For ceremony, and there's a lot more, as you know, around Loch Gur. Have you seen the rest of it? Have you been into Loch Gur itself?
Yeah, we were.
And there's plenty more there, and there's a couple of good books out on Loch Gur at the moment, you know. But I wouldn't be as familiar with that now as I would be with the Blackwater Valley.
That you'd like. It is a fascinating subject, and you're a fascinating person, Christy, to bring to the attention of what the history was of our cousins, our distant cousins from, not so distant actually, from Ireland. And it's a story that goes on for thousands of years, and we're part of that story, and here we are in North America, looking back at from whence we came as well. A very appropriate title to your book, your latest book there, Christy. Also want to thank you for becoming a friend to us. You have been around here for several years, and you come back and you bring these stories with you, and it really brings our history alive for us. And I want to thank you very much for that. This time you've come back and you've even been Grand Marshal of our St. Patrick's Day Parade. So those thank you for that as well. Those connections are really meaningful to us. And you've met with our mayor and the warden and all the rest. And we're hoping that these ties between our community here in Peterborough and the Blackwater Valley become stronger and stronger as the years go by. And it's up to us to keep the flames fanned and to keep those ideas alive and keep those people alive in our hearts and in reality to go there. They're very curious about us because we're kind of like a lost group to them, and it was very traumatic for the people of Blackwater Valley and the Ballyhura Mountains when they're young, you know, they're younger families, their daughters and their grandchildren and that left to come here 200 years ago. So they are very, very interested in closing those ties and keeping those bonds open. And we got a card, a St. Patrick's Day card from Amanda Slattery with the Ballyhura Development Corporation that, Christy, I believe they gave to you to give to us. And I just want to read to you some of the sentiments that Amanda shared with us, and indeed their whole group at the Ballyhura Development. Wishing you all a wonderful St. Patrick's Day 2026. Enjoy the festivities. Congratulations to you all and 9 ships and all the wonderful volunteers on an amazing year in 2025. It will live long in all of our memories. We so value our continued collaboration and friendship. And then she's got some Gaelic here that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. But wishing you all well from Amanda, Nicola, Padraig, and all the friends at Ballyhura. This card is from the home village of Ballerine, where some of the Robinson families came from. And I'll leave that, the sentiments in the card, I'll read that out as well. May your world be bright with cheer. May your cares all disappear. May contentment come your way. And may laughter fill your day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Isn't that a wonderful card? I want to also bring to your attention some of the announcements that we have to make about things coming up with 9 Ships 1825. We are working with the City, County, and Trent Valley Archives and others to find a home for all the information and materials that have been gathered during the bicentennial over the past several years, because we want to preserve this important history for future generations here in this area as well. We are working on a book being put together by Elwood Jones and the board called Bicentennial Reflections on the events of the past year, so watch for that. It will be coming out soon. On April 25th in Douro, Patrick Leahy at the Douro Hall will be giving a presentation on Irish identity in our local communities during the first 100 years. And there's the poster on it, so watch for it. It'll be coming up. And you can check out the 9 Ships website and social media to get details on these things. Also, the Peterborough Catholic Diocese will be celebrating the 200th anniversary of the first formal Mass held in Peterborough and the birth of St. Peter's Cathedral. And that's set for the weekend of June 5th, 6th, and 7th. So watch for all these things on the 9 Ships social media to get notice of it, and please participate.
Committee for inviting me and inviting me to be in Grandmaster. And I'm delighted to do it, and when I come here to Canada, I always feel that I'm among friends. So, we're in Moher. Thank you.